My father didn't blink. He didn't hesitate, didn't soften, didn't even look ashamed. He just stared at me across the dinner table and said, with the calmness of a man commenting on the weather, "We spent your savings on someone better." The words didn't echo, they landed. Heavy, final, irreversible. For a moment, the world shrank to a pinhole. The clink of my brother Jackson's fork, my mother's stiff inhale, the low hum of the dining chandelier, the faint scent of roasted rosemary chicken. I wasn't sure which was louder, my racing pulse or the silence. Someone better. The phrase twisted inside me like a blade, cold and deliberate. I forced my voice to work. Better than me? The question scraped out, barely louder than a whisper. Before my father, Corvin Crest, could answer, someone else moved. Slowly, stiffly, deliberately. My grandfather, Emery Voss, rose from his chair. His jaw set. His eyes hardened. His voice dropped an octave. Name that someone. Now. But in that moment, before Corvin spoke, before anyone breathed, the truth hit me with brutal clarity. This betrayal didn't start tonight. And, God help me, it wasn't going to end here either. My name is Ravina Crest. For most of my life, I believed silence kept the peace. I was wrong. Silence feeds the wolves. And in my family, the wolves had names. I grew up in a house where quiet wasn't calm, it was expected. Where asking for less made you good, and needing nothing made you easy to love. I learned young to fold myself small, shoulders tucked, voice careful, footsteps muted. I wasn't the child who slammed doors or demanded attention. I was the one who packed her own lunches, stitched her own backpack straps, and learned to handle scraped knees without tears. Because in our home, trouble was noise. And noise belonged to my younger brother, Jackson. People called him promising, gifted, special. Like potential was something he exhaled, and the rest of us had to inhale, no matter the cost. My parents, Corvin and Leora Crest, fed that story like a creed. Praise for him, apologies for him, money for him, silence for me. When birthdays came, Jackson got new bicycles, the latest sneakers, shiny drone kits. I got practical things, stationery, socks, a lukewarm, "You don't need much, sweetheart." Once, at age 13, I won a small creative writing competition at school. I stood on stage, certificate trembling in my hands, cheeks flushed with pride. My mother's clap was polite. My father leaned over and whispered, "Don't get attached. Jackson's time will come." I believed him. I believed everything back then. And when I turned 16, I got a part-time job, first sorting files in a dusty insurance office, later bussing tables at a weekend cafe. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. Every dollar I earned felt like proof that I could build something solid. Corvin told me he'd help put the money into a long-term savings account. "For your future," he said. I trusted him, because that's what daughters are taught to do. By 24, I had saved enough to imagine security, nothing dramatic, just the comfort of a small cushion. Maybe a second-hand car, maybe a tiny studio of my own. And eventually, I did sign the lease on a small apartment in the city. Thin walls, squeaky pipes, a view of a parking lot. But it was mine. I taped cheap art prints to the walls, bought mismatched mugs, kept a stubborn little plant on the windowsill that refused to die. My life was simple, quiet, manageable. But quiet things break the loudest. It was a rainy Wednesday, the kind of day when the city smelled like wet concrete and metal. I came home from work exhausted, kicked off my shoes, reheated last night's pasta, and opened my laptop to check my account balance. Routine. Automatic. Thoughtless. Until it wasn't. The number stared back at me. Wrong. Too low. Much too low. I blinked. Refreshed the page. Checked the Wi-Fi. Refreshed again. The balance didn't change. There were withdrawals I didn't recognize. Transfers I didn't authorize. Not one. Not two. A string of them. Quiet, spaced, calculated. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Every instinct inside me whispered, "Don't panic. Don't assume the worst." But then I clicked the transaction list again and saw the dates. The amounts. The repetition. Someone had been draining my savings. Not recklessly. Strategically. Someone who knew I rarely questioned anything. Someone who counted on me staying silent. My stomach tightened. My throat prickled. And for the first time in my life, silence didn't feel safe. It felt stupid. I didn't sleep that night. I just stared at the ceiling until morning, the truth pressing against my ribs like a weight. The next day, I drove to my parents' house. Out of fear, confusion, habit. I told myself it was a normal visit. It wasn't. Inside the living room, sprawled on the couch, was Jackson, bathed in the glow of a sleek new laptop.
Shiny.
Expensive. High-end. The kind of machine people saved months for. I forced my voice steady. New laptop. He didn't look up.
Yeah.
I swallowed. Where'd you get it? Dad said it was time I had decent equipment for my courses. Courses. My pulse skipped. You're taking classes? He shrugged. Some special programs. Workshops. Equipment. Supplies. It's an investment. An investment. That word burned. Leora, my mother, glanced over her shoulder from the kitchen. Ravina, be supportive. Jackson's at an important age. You remember how you were at his age, don't you?
I nodded faintly.
I worked after school. She waved a hand dismissively. That was your choice. And look, you turned out fine.
Fine.
The word hit harder than it should have. Like my stability made me less deserving. Like responsibility was punishment. Like being low maintenance meant being invisible. Later, when Jackson disappeared upstairs and the kitchen fell quiet, my father entered, calm, unreadable. I stood there, heart pounding. Dad, I said, my savings account. He didn't flinch. What about it? There's money missing. A lot of it. He paused, just for a breath. Then, we used it. My pulse roared in my ears. Used it for what? For your brother, Corvin said plainly. He needs opportunities.
Tools.
Chances you didn't. I stared at him. I didn't need opportunities. You're already working, he continued. You're stable. You'll be fine.
Fine.
Again. Like my independence disqualified me from support. Like my effort made me unworthy. A cold numbness crawled up my spine. I didn't speak, because silence was all I'd ever known. But later that night, when the house was dark and everyone slept, I crept to the kitchen. The drawer Corvin had opened earlier. I checked it. Inside, under old receipts, was a folder, with my name printed across the top. Inside it, loan application forms, credit documents, preparation to open a debt in my name. My hand trembled. Not from fear. From clarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was a plan. And it wasn't just theft. It was an identity. It was the future. It was my life. Weaponized. Something inside me cracked open. And for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid. I was furious. The next day at lunch, I met my closest friend, Lila Marin, at a cafe near my office. She took one look at me and sat up straighter. You look like you haven't blinked since yesterday. I told her everything, quietly, cautiously, like unwrapping something infected. When I finished, her face was pale. Ravina, that's not just cruel. It's illegal. I nodded. They think I won't do anything. Her eyes locked on mine. Are they right? For the first time, the answer was simple.
No.
That evening, I drove to Emery Voss's house, my grandfather. He opened the door before I finished knocking. Something's wrong, he said, not a question but certainty. We sat in his living room, surrounded by old books and cedar-scented air. I laid it all out, the missing money, the laptop, the loan documents.
His jaw tightened.
The air shifted. I knew they favored Jackson, Emery murmured. But this? He shook his head, eyes burning. This is exploitation. They're counting on your silence. I swallowed. I can't let this go.
No, he said.
You can't. For the next hour, we combed through printed statements, dates, withdrawals. Emery moved slowly now, age creeping into his joints, but his mind was sharp as a blade. Document everything, he said. Every transfer. Every dollar. Keep copies somewhere safe. I already started. A small smile tugged at his mouth. Good girl. Before I left, he placed a hand on my arm. A family that loves you doesn't drain you. They don't take from you because you're quiet. They don't punish you for being strong. The words cracked something inside my chest, something I didn't know was breakable. I drove home under the glow of city lights. And for the first time in my life, silence wasn't submission. Silence was strategy. Because I knew exactly when I would confront them. And exactly who would be there to witness it. My parents always staged dinners when Emery visited. Fake warmth, fake harmony. A performance of family. This time, I arrived exactly on time. Not early. Not apologetic. With the folder in my bag. The moment I stepped inside, I knew something was wrong. Leora moved too fast, adjusting napkins that didn't need adjusting. Jackson stared at his phone, shoulders tense. Corvin stood near the doorway, hands buried in his pockets, face unreadable. And Emery sat at the table, still, silent, watching. Dinner began with small talk. Forced laughter. Clinking silverware. But the air was stretched thin, ready to tear. Then Corvin spoke.
Calm.
Casual. Cool. We spent your savings on someone better. The room fell into a suffocating hush. My voice came out low. Better than me? He didn't blink. Your brother needed support. You didn't. Something inside me stopped moving. Then, the scrape of a chair. Emery standing. His voice cutting through the air like a blade.
Name. That.
Someone. Corvin bristled. This isn't your concern. Oh, it is now. I reached into my bag and placed the folder on the table. My hands didn't tremble. Not anymore. Inside that folder was every withdrawal, every signature, every stolen dollar, every attempt to open a loan in my name. The truth laid bare. Leora gasped. Jackson leaned forward, face paling. This came from her account, he whispered. Corvin snapped. You needed the classes. Don't start acting ungrateful. Jackson's voice cracked. I never asked you to take her money. Corvin's composure shattered. She doesn't need what you do. She's strong. She manages on her own. Emery slammed his hand on the table, not loud, but decisive. Strength is not an invitation to be used. Silence. Then Emery turned to me. Ravina, what do you want? It was the first time in my life that question had ever been asked. I breathed once.
Slow. Steady.
I want every dollar returned. Corvin's face twisted. You're overreacting. Emery cut in, voice like ice. She is responding, and you will repay what you stole, or this becomes a legal matter. Corvin paled. Leora's voice cracked. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll adjust, Emery said. Sell something. Cut back. But you will make this right. A long, brutal silence followed. Finally, Corvin exhaled.
Fine.
We'll return it. And the loan paperwork? I asked. His jaw tightened. I'll destroy it. Emery nodded once.
Good.
But I knew better. Some damage can't be undone. It only becomes a line. A line they would never cross again. I stood. I gathered my folder and walked out. No one stopped me. Because this time, I wasn't leaving in silence. I was leaving with power. The following weeks were quiet. Too quiet. My parents transferred my money back in tense installments, no apologies, no explanations. Just numbers. Undoing a theft they had convinced themselves was justified. Emery called often, sometimes just to say he was proud. Jackson showed up once. Awkward and pale. I'm trying to do better, he said. I didn't forgive him. But I believed him. Life in my apartment feels different now. Lighter. I rebuilt my budget. Reorganized my documents. I started imagining a future that belonged to me. A future no one could drain. A future no one could rewrite. But the truth? This wasn't the end. It was only the first crack in the surface. Because somewhere beneath this story, something darker was waiting. Someone else. Something else. A betrayal deeper than money. And the first sign of it was a name. A name I hadn't heard in years. A name that would unravel everything I thought I knew. Draven Hale. And the moment he returned, my life stopped being quiet and started becoming dangerous. The night Ravina Crest left the hospital, the world felt colder than she remembered. Streetlights flickered against the pavement like nervous heartbeats, and every shadow looked alive. Her ribs still ached from the assault in the abandoned wing, but pain was the least of her problems. Someone wanted her silenced. Someone who had been close enough to follow her, track her, and strike when no one would hear her scream. But she wasn't running anymore. She was done being afraid. She was ready to fight back. When Ravina reached her home, the Crest estate felt hollow, too quiet, too still. It was once her sanctuary, a place filled with laughter, warmth, and her mother's perfume lingering in the hallways. Now, every creak felt like a warning. She paused at the front door and scanned the dark interior. "Just breathe," she whispered. But when she stepped inside, something was wrong. A single picture frame lay shattered on the floor. The photo was one she knew well, her family gathered under the autumn trees. Her father's hand on her shoulder. Her mother smiled softly. Jackson teases her in the background. And right across Ravina's face, someone had drawn a deep black X. Her pulse spiked. This wasn't random. Someone had been inside. Before she could reach for her phone, she heard footsteps behind her. She spun around. Ravina? It was Lila Marin, her best friend, standing in the doorway, breathless, panic in her eyes. "What are you doing here?" Ravina asked, voice tight. Lila rushed forward, clutching Ravina's arms. "I've been calling you for hours. Jackson, he's missing." The words ripped through Ravina like a blade. "Missing? What do you mean missing?" "He never came home. His phone's dead." And Lila hesitated, trembling. "There was a message left at the police station." "A message?" Lila nodded. "Written on paper. Just 4 words." Ravina swallowed. "What did it say?" "She knows too much." The room spun. Ravina staggered back, gripping the wall for balance. This wasn't just about the journal. This wasn't just about her mother's death. Now her brother is gone. Lila reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded envelope. "It was addressed to you," she whispered. Ravina's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single line written in jagged handwriting. "Follow the truth where it began." No signature. No instructions. Just a threat disguised as a riddle. Lila watched her carefully. "What does it mean?" Ravina stared at the message, her heart pounding. "It means my mother," she whispered. "It means Emery Voss. And it means the past didn't die, it was buried." Ravina and Lila drove straight to her grandfather Emery Voss' old study. The room was preserved exactly as he left it. Dusty shelves, locked drawers, and stacks of untouched books. Emery had been obsessed with secrets, particularly those surrounding the Crest family. Ravina remembered his final words to her. "Trust no one. Not even the ones who love you." She approached his massive oak desk and began searching through drawers. Papers, old maps, legal documents, but nothing useful. Then she noticed something odd. A section of the bookshelf was cleaner than the rest, less dust, recently touched. Ravina pressed her fingers against the wood. It clicked softly. A hidden latch. The shelf slid open, revealing a narrow compartment, and inside was a small black recorder. Ravina pressed play. Emery's voice crackled through the speaker. "If you're hearing this, Ravina, it means the truth has reached you. Your mother discovered something powerful enough to destroy this family and every name tied to it. She didn't die by accident. She was silenced." Ravina's breath hitched. The journal she left behind holds the final piece. "Do not trust Corvin. Do not trust Soren Pike. And whoever stands beside you, question them twice." Lila's eyes widened. "Soren Pike? The head physician?" Ravina shook her head.
No.
"Not just a physician. He was my father's partner in the Crest Foundation." The recording crackled again. "They're watching you. When the time comes, run." The recorder went silent. Lila whispered, "Ravina, your father." "No," Ravina said, voice trembling. He couldn't. But doubt was a venom seeping in. As they left the study, headlights flashed across the driveway. A car screeched to a stop. Raveena tensed, but the driver's door opened and Draven Hale stepped out. His face was pale, jaw clenched. "Raveena, we need to talk. Now." Lila backed away cautiously. "What happened?" Raveena asked. Draven took a deep breath. "I found something at the hospital. Something you need to see." He pulled out a file folder. "Your mother wasn't the only one researching the Crest Foundation. There were dozens of patients, people who disappeared, patients who were never recorded in the system. And every trail leads back to Soren Pike." Raveena's blood ran cold. "And your father?" "No," Raveena snapped. "My father loved her. But Draven's eyes were dark with certainty. "Raveena, your father signed the authorization for every experiment." Silence fell like a stone. Lila whispered, "Experiments?" "Illegal ones," Draven said. "Psychological testing. Drug trials. Human subjects. Your mother was trying to expose them. That's why she died." Raveena felt her heart fracture. Her father wasn't just hiding something.
He was part of it.
Before Raveena could speak, her phone buzzed. A private number. She hesitated, then answered. A distorted voice growled through the line. "If you want Jackson alive, come alone." Raveena froze. "Who is this?" "Midnight. The old observatory. Bring the journal." The call ended. Lila grabbed her hand. "Raveena, you can't go alone." But Raveena's eyes were filled with fire. "I don't have a choice." Draven stepped forward. "Then I'm coming with you." Raveena stared at him, every warning Emery gave echoing in her mind. Trust no one. Question everyone. But Jackson was out there. And time was running out. "Fine," she whispered. "But if anything goes wrong, you leave. Understand?" Draven nodded. But the look in his eyes said something else. He wasn't planning on leaving her side. Not this time. The observatory stood like a skeleton silhouetted against the moon. Its dome was cracked, window shattered, the metal staircase rusted and groaning in the wind. Raveena gripped the journal tightly as she stepped forward. "Stay close," she whispered. Draven nodded. Inside, the air was icy. Dust swirled in thin beams of moonlight, and every footstep echoed like a heartbeat. Raveena scanned the darkness. "Jackson," she called. "If you can hear me, please." A figure stepped out from the shadows. Soren Pike. His coat hung like a shadow around him. His eyes gleamed with something cold and triumphant. "Raveena Crest," he purred. "Just like your mother."
Brave.
Reckless. Predictable. She clenched her fists. "Where's my brother?" Soren smirked. "Safe for now. But you brought what I wanted." Raveena held up the journal. "Let him go." Soren stepped closer, extending his hand. "Give it to me, and this ends." Raveena stared into his eyes, and in that moment, she saw the truth. He was never going to let Jackson go. Ever. She backed away.
"No."
Soren's smile vanished. "You don't understand what you're interfering with." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Raveena said, voice trembling with fury. "You silenced my mother. You hid the experiments. You terrorized my family." Soren tilted his head. "I didn't do it alone." Raveena froze. "What?" Footsteps echoed behind her. Draven Hale stepped forward, eyes cold, expression unreadable. Lila gasped. Raveena stared at him, horror spreading across her face. "Draven?" He didn't answer. Soren smiled. "Do you really think he appeared in your life by accident?" Raveena shook her head.
"No."
"No, this isn't real." Draven's voice finally broke the silence. "I'm sorry, Raveena." She felt the world collapse beneath her. "You were the only loose end," he whispered. "Just like your mother." Raveena staggered back. Draven Hale, her confidant, her protector, was the man who betrayed her. Soren lifted a gun. "Give me the journal." Raveena looked between them. The man who lied to her, and the man who hunted her. And then she did the only thing she could. She ran. She bolted up the spiral staircase, Draven and Soren shouting behind her. The metal steps shook beneath her feet. The journal burned in her hands like a fuse ready to ignite. She reached the top. No exit. Just a broken window overlooking a deadly fall. Draven appeared behind her, breath ragged. "Don't do this," he said softly. "Give it to me. We can fix this." Ravina turned slowly, tears streaking her face. "You killed my mother." Draven's jaw tightened. "I didn't want to, but she chose the truth over her life." Ravina stepped backward toward the shattered window. "And I choose the truth over mine." Before Draven could move, Ravina hurled the journal into the air, pages scattering like dying birds. The wind tore them away, flinging them into the night. Soren screamed, lunging forward. Draven reached for her, but Ravina stepped back and fell. The world dissolved into darkness. Wind. Silence. Then, nothing. Hours later, police swarmed the observatory. Lila stood alone, shaking, staring at the ravine below where Ravina's body had fallen. But there was nobody. No trace. No blood. Just an empty ledge, and pages of the journal scattered across the rocks. An officer approached Lila. "We'll continue searching at first light. But from this height, no one could survive that fall." Lila's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know Ravina Crest." She turned and walked away. Behind her, deep in the shadowed trees, a figure watched silently, breathing steadily, alive. Ravina Crest. Her eyes were cold, determined, and full of fire. "This isn't over," she whispered into the dawn. "Not by a long shot."